There is a saying in the US Navy, the only difference between a patrol and a war is about 10 seconds. You train for years to handle those 10 seconds. But when the radar screen actually lights up, and the threat warning starts screaming, training is the only thing standing between a peaceful morning and an international catastrophe. Trump stated clearly that the US Navy is authorized to respond decisively to any hostile act near American assets. That was the policy. But what happened at 0540 hours in the Caribbean wasn't policy. It was a test of nerves. 2 rogue fighter jets against 1 Arleigh Burke-class destroyer. No backup. No witnesses. Just a silent, invisible war fought at the speed of sound. If you want to know what modern naval warfare actually looks like, when the missiles are inbound and the safety covers are flipped off, subscribe right now. Because the story you're about to hear is the closest we've come to a breaking point in decades. 5:40 a.m. The Caribbean Sea. Sailors call it the pond when it's like this. Dead calm. Glassy water. The horizon is beginning to bleed purple with the sunrise. On the surface, everything looks peaceful. But 150 miles south, on the Venezuelan military island of La Orquilla, the peace is being shredded. 2 Venezuelan Su-30 Mk2 flanker jets are burning runway. These aren't training trainers. These are heavy Russian-made air superiority fighters. They lift off without a flight plan. No radio check. Their transponders, the devices that tell air traffic control I am here, are switched to standby. They are flying dark. Under their wings they are hauling a full combat load. Supersonic anti-ship missiles designed for one thing: cracking the hull of a capitalist warship. The pilots push the throttles. The afterburners kick in, dumping raw fuel into the exhaust, turning the jets into rockets. They bank north, climbing past 1,400 miles per hour, Mach 1.8. Then they do something that signals clear hostile intent. They drop down. They descend to cherub status, naval slang for flying under 1,000 feet. They are hugging the deck, using the curvature of the Earth to hide from long-range radar. Their flight path isn't a wander, it's a vector. They are drawing a straight line toward international waters. This is not a routine patrol. This is a simulated kill run. Directly in their path sits the USS Thomas Hudner, a U.S. Navy destroyer running a freedom of navigation operation. It's there to keep shipping lanes open for the massive tankers and cargo ships that fuel the global economy. For the crew, it's just another mid-watch. Coffee is stale. Eyes are heavy. The bridge is quiet. But for Venezuela, this patch of ocean is their front yard. They see the gray hull of a U.S. warship as a challenge. And this morning they decided to answer that challenge. Deep inside the ship there are no windows. This is the Combat Information Center, the CIC. The brain of the beast. The room is bathed in blue light and the hum of cooling fans. Suddenly, a radar operator leans forward. The boredom vanishes. Unknown contact. Bearing 180. Speed, high. Altitude, on the deck. The conversation in the room dies instantly. The Tactical Action Officer, TAO, the person responsible for fighting the ship when the captain isn't there, steps up behind the operator. Verify squawk, he orders. Negative squawk, sir. No IFF. Contacts are running cold. On the glowing screens, the 2 yellow dots, marking unknowns, flicker. The Aegis Combat System, the most advanced naval computer on Earth, crunches the data. It analyzes speed, heading, and altitude. It makes a decision before the humans do. The symbols on the screen turn red. Hostile. The distance is closing fast. Under 80 miles. That might sound like a lot, but at Mach 1.8, that's mere minutes before impact. General quarters, general quarters. All hands man your battle stations. The alarm isn't a drill. It's the real deal. Sailors wake up from dead sleep, adrenaline dumping into their systems, racing to their posts. This is the moment where control is fragile. One wrong twitch, one trigger pulled too early and you start a war. The Su-30s are pushing the limit. They know they are being tracked. They are counting on the U.S. Navy's rules of engagement, ROE, to protect them. They know the Americans won't shoot first unless fired upon. So they decide to push the envelope until it tears. The pilot in the lead jet flips a switch. His radar-locked tone screams in his headset. He has the ship. Back in the CIC, the electronic warfare technician sees the spike. Vampire. Vampire. Inbound missiles detected. The room freezes for a microsecond. Vampire is the brevity code for an inbound hostile anti-ship missile. 4 objects separate from the jets. The captain's voice cuts through the chaos, calm and icy. Track all threats. Do not fire. Spool up ECM. This is the wildest part. The captain is betting the lives of 300 sailors on his electronic systems. He is choosing to fight with electrons instead of bullets. Outside the ocean is still. But in the electromagnetic spectrum, a violent storm just erupted. The ships and SLQ-32 electronic warfare suite, the Slick 32, kicks into overdrive. It blasts a massive wall of jamming energy directed at the incoming missiles. This is a soft kill. The goal isn't to blow the missiles up, it's to lobotomize them. The ship is screaming noise on the exact frequencies the missiles used to see. The missiles, traveling at supersonic speeds, begin to wobble. Their seeker heads are confused. They see a ghost ship, then 10 ships, then nothing but white noise. They adjust left, then right. They are fighting to hold a lock that is slipping away like sand through fingers. Stop right there. Put yourself in the captain's chair. You have supersonic missiles inbound. You have seconds to live. You chose not to fire your interceptors. If you think the captain made the right call by holding fire, type discipline in the comments. If you think he should have blown those jets out of the sky the second they locked on, type fire. I want to see what you would do. Back on the screen, the dots are erratic. The jamming is working. One by one, the missile tracks lose coherence. They veer off, blinded by the invisible wall of energy the Hudner is putting out. They splash into the water miles off the port bow. No explosion. No fire. Just heavy metal sinking to the bottom. All threats neutralized, a technician confirms. The voice is shaky. The USS Thomas Hudner never changed course. It never flinched. But everyone in that blue-lit room knows the truth. The Venezuelan pilots didn't miss. They were testing the system. They wanted to see if the Americans would flinch. The immediate danger is gone, but the radar isn't clear yet. The jets are turning. They aren't going home. They are repositioning. The first wave was a jab. Now comes the haymaker. The escalation doesn't arrive with noise. It arrives with pressure. The radar screen starts to get cluttered. Ghost signals. False echoes. The pilots are trying to saturate the system to overwhelm the crew with too much data. Fatigue sets in. Eyes burn. The adrenaline crash hits. But they can't blink. Because in naval warfare, the silence after the first shot is usually just the deep breath before the scream. The missiles are in the water, but the screen is still a mess. This is the phase of combat civilians never see. It's called saturation. The Venezuelan jets, now banking hard to the west, aren't just running away. They are flooding the spectrum with noise. On the Hudner's displays, new contacts pop up. New track. Bearing 220. Check ID. Negative, it's a ghost. Signal is fluctuating. The radar operators are fighting to distinguish between a real 20-ton jet and an electronic phantom created to confuse them. This is the fog of war in the digital age. Fatigue starts to hit the crew like a physical weight. The adrenaline dump from the missile attack is fading, leaving hands shaking and minds racing. But training kicks in. The tactical action officer keeps the room locked down. Stay sharp. Watch for the wraparound. They might be flanking. Every second the ship holds its course is a statement. A slight turn away would look like fear. A turn toward them would look like aggression. The Hudner does neither. It plows a straight, white furrow through the ocean. Unmoved. Unimpressed. Then the behavior changes. The jagged movements on the radar smooth out. The hostile red symbols stop maneuvering. They turn south. Contacts turning cold. Speed increasing. Altitude climbing to Angel 20. They are heading home. Back to Laurquilla. But why leave now? The ship is still floating. The missiles failed. Was it a failure? Or was that the plan all along? Here is the twist that keeps analysts up at night. The missile launch might not have been a kill attempt. It was a probe. By forcing the USS Thomas Hudner to activate its defensive suite, those Venezuelan pilots, and whoever is advising them, got exactly what they wanted. They mapped the ship's electronic signature. They measured how fast the Americans react. They recorded which frequencies the jamming systems use. The ship survived the physical attack, but it just gave up a goldmine of intelligence data. The crew knows it. The captain knows it. The silence in the CIC isn't relief, it's heavy with realization. This wasn't a brawl, it was a stress test. And the results are already being uploaded to a server somewhere in Caracas. Condition Zebra is secured. Set condition Yoke. The order comes over the 1MC, the ship's intercom. It means the immediate danger is past. The watertight doors can be unsealed. The ship can breathe again. Inside the CIC, the red lights switch back to blue and white. The tension creates a vacuum in the room. A few sailors exhale loud, shaky breaths. Someone cracks a knuckle. It sounds like a gunshot in the quiet room. Outside, the Caribbean sun is fully up now. The water is sparkling blue. If you were standing on the deck, you'd never know that 10 minutes ago, supersonic death was skimming 5 feet above those waves. The Hudner sends a standard SITREP situation report to 4th Fleet Command. No drama. No exclamation points. Interrogated 2 unknown air contacts. Engagement non-kinetic. Continuing mission. That is the ultimate flex. The U.S. Navy doesn't need to brag. It doesn't need to chase the jets back to their base to prove a point. The ship simply remains. It occupies the space. It says, you took your best shot and we are still here. By the end of the day, satellite imagery confirms the story. The 2 Su-30s are parked on the tarmac at Laurquilla. The weapon stations under their wings are empty. But the ripple effect spreads across the region. Commercial GPS signals in the area drift for a few hours, a side effect of the massive electronic jamming the Hudner unleashed. Cargo ships report calm static. Diplomats in Washington and Caracas exchange carefully worded statements. One side calls it imperialist aggression, the other calls it routine presence. But the sailors on the Hudner know the truth. They stared into the abyss and the abyss blinked first. This encounter sets a new baseline. The Caribbean isn't a quiet backyard anymore, it's a contested zone. Every patrol is now a potential front line. This incident proves that modern warfare has changed. It's not always about who has the bigger explosion. It's about discipline. It's about the sailor who keeps his finger off the trigger when every instinct screams to fire. The USS Thomas Hudner won that fight not because it destroyed the enemy, but because it refused to let the enemy dictate the chaos. That is the difference between a skirmish and a war. So, I have to ask you one last time. If you think this was a masterclass in US naval discipline, hit that like button. But if you think this was a dangerous intelligence failure that gave away US secrets, let me know in the comments below. We cover the stories the mainstream news is too scared to touch. If you want to stay ahead of the curve, click that subscribe button right there. We'll see you on the next watch.